Hey y'all, it's Robert, and today at the Sweet Unpacked, we're making Hello Kitty.
K-I-T-T-Y, K-I-T-T-Y. Everybody say Hello Kitty.
Now this is another character cake, and these are my favorite type of cakes to do, but they are difficult because there's that clear reference, so you know what I'm trying to make, and if I don't make it just right, it won't look like Hello Kitty, it'll look like Goodbye Doggy, and we don't want that. So to start this cake off, we're gonna start by torting the cake layers. For the cake layers, I'm using 8-inch cakes and 8-inch dome cakes, and I'm gonna go ahead and pre-cut some of these so that I can save some time when I have to carve the cake later. And then once they're all torted, I'm gonna add the simple syrup. This way the cakes don't dry out as I'm working on it. Before I can start stacking this cake, I have to prepare the cake board. So I have a wooden cake board and I attached a threaded rod to it. Then I covered that with aluminum tape to make sure that everything would be food safe. I'm stacking this cake with vanilla buttercream, and I'm going to be adding some support as I continue to build up because this is going to be a pretty big cake, so I don't want it to collapse on itself. So I have some cake dowels and I'm going to cut them all the same exact size, then insert those into the cake, then going to place a cake board on top of that and then continue to stack it. Now that all the cake layers are stacked up, I then realized that I have one too many layers because it's making her head look too big. So I took one layer off, but here's a spoiler, I still ended up making her head too big and I had to fix it later. But for right now, I'm going to start carving the cake. There's not too much carving I have to do to this cake, so I'm just going to round off the edges and then also cut off the caramelized edges. Now it's time to do the crumb coat, just to make sure that the crumbs from when I was carving it don't end up in the final coat. For the final coat, we are using chocolate ganache, of course, and I'm using a 3-to-1 ratio, and this is 3 times the amount of chocolate to cream, and I'm just going to combine that and let that rest before I add it to the cake. I'm adding the ganache to the cake using a piping bag, and I realized that I did not let the ganache set long enough because it started to run down the cake, but I was able to easily fix this by smoothing it out with an acetate sheet. Now that the ganache is applied in setting, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the modeling chocolate, and I'm going to be covering this cake with white modeling chocolate because I'll be adding color to it later with edible paint. So I thought I'd be able to cover this cake with one piece of modeling chocolate and drape it over the cake. Then I realized that I did not have enough rolled out, so I had to take that off and then just do it in 2 separate sections, covering the front side first and then adding the second half later. Now that the cake is completely covered in modeling chocolate, I can now start adding some details. So I'm going to start with the neckline first, and I'm going to create that by using some modeling tools to create that indentation. I also added another indentation for her legs, and then I realized that I made her head way too big for the proportions that I made her body, so I had to cut the top portion of the cake off using a serrated knife. I really had no choice but to do this because I really wanted to get this character as close as I could get it, and that's what makes these character cakes so hard to do. But once I had it all carved out, I added a little more chocolate ganache to the top and then added modeling chocolate to that. Now that I have everything smooth again, I'm going to be adding her arms and her ears using modeling chocolate. So everything that I can pretty much sculpt is done, so now I can start adding color to this cake. And I'm using edible paint to do this, and I only need to use 3 colors, and that's red, white, and pink. I'm painting her head and her legs white first, then I'm switching over to pink to paint her shirt. And I'm being really careful with doing this because I really do want to make sure I have clean, sharp lines. For her overalls, I'm going to be completely coloring that using red. All the color is now added, so I can start working on all those defining features. So I'm using a little bit of yellow modeling chocolate to make the nose, and then using black modeling chocolate to make the eyes and the whiskers. Then to make the bow, I colored some modeling chocolate red, then used some sculpting tools to give it its shape. The very last detail to add is her tail, so I'm using a ball of white modeling chocolate for this, and I'm keeping it in place by using a skewer and a little bit of piping gel. So here it is. This is the Hello Kitty cake complete. So I definitely ran into a few problems trying to make this cake. I've never had to carve a cake halfway through working on it, but I am happy that I did that because it really helped with proportions, and I'm happy with the final results. So if you like this cake, make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And if there's other character cakes or any other cake that you want to see me make sure that you leave those in the comments below. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next video.